Good evening. A very warm welcome to everybody for this evening's on-demand exclusive parent session. Before we start the program, a gentle reminder about the disclaimer that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on Facebook. So if you would like to keep your privacy, you may switch off your cameras. Now, let us watch a video on the challenges the parents are facing during this pandemic.
Family bonding had a beautiful ring to it in March 2020. But 15 months later, the pressure on parents to meet their families' physical, mental, social, and emotional needs is not only challenging, but for many, a daunting task. How are these parents managing these realities on the ground? Before we talk to our special guest faculty for this session, Managing the Family Dynamics in the Current COVID Scenario, let's just hear some of the challenges that our parents are facing. Join us for this very special parent exclusive with our guest faculty from Heartfulness MENA and Global Indian International Schools, UAE.
Due to this pandemic, we really miss our parents and our extended families.
My husband is a doctor, and he being in ICU and critical care. My biggest concern during this pandemic is regarding his health and well-being.
The news that we are getting from our friends and relatives around us are really causing undercurrent tension within us as well, especially when they share their problems like job loss, a financial crisis, future of their kids, and the health related problems due to COVID as well.
It is difficult to find a healthy routine for kids with no fixed time for meals, sleep, etc. They have become more addicted to gadgets. Since they spend more than 10 hours in front of screen, it has affected their eyes and sleep, leading to sleep deprivation and loss of appetite due to lack of exercise.
In this pandemic, they are facing so many challenges such as extra devices, internet connections, and family bonding.
Due to the current scenario, we are worried about our kids' education and their future.
The pandemic has led to the immobility of my children and other family members due to home confinement.
Due to Corona, we lost our loved ones, which brought us sadness and depression. We felt helpless because we couldn't be there with them during their difficult time.
Isolation due to this pandemic is creating a lot of difficulties in our children, especially lack of social interaction, social skills, etc.
Because of the pandemic, everybody has been locked at home, even kids too. They are not going school, so the classes are mandatory on the screen. So the screen timing has increased for the kids, and after the classes, they wants to watch their own stuff. So limiting their screen timing is very difficult.
Good evening, everyone. I am very happy to introduce our faculty of this evening, Dr. Elizabeth Danley, Editor-in-Chief of the internationally published Heartfulness magazine. She has a PhD in Biological Sciences from the University of Sydney, Australia, and has been a Values and Ethics education trainer since 1996 for adults and children, with an emphasis on communication and teamwork. Welcome, Dr. Elizabeth. Now, I would like to welcome Dr. Hina Raj, Principal of Global Indian International School, Abu Dhabi. A doctorate in English, she is credited with bringing transformational changes in academic and co-curricular activity levels in a number of schools. Dr. Hina conducts seminars on topics such as parenting, communication skills, and attitude engineering. Once again, a warm welcome to Dr. Elizabeth Danley and Hina Raj. Now, let us join Ms. Parvati, our moderator for today, to take the program forward.
Thank you, Manchula. A warm welcome to all our parents who have taken time to join us, as well as our Facebook Live viewers. Let's let's start our session now without much wait. Dr. Elizabeth, I would like you to invite now to share your viewpoints about our topic.
Thank you, Parvati. Hi, everybody, and it's just very wonderful to be here with you. This is really the only way we can meet these days. You know, we have often met all together in India, and right now we're all stuck in different parts of the world. So I want to start with a very quick check-in exercise, because this, and you'll see why this is important later on in the session. But if all of you can just put your phones down or whatever you're doing and just close your eyes for a minute. This is a heartfulness micro practice, and it's called check-in. So just close your eyes and just look inside yourself, go into your heart and ask yourself a very simple question. How am I feeling? Not what am I thinking, how am I feeling? Just take a minute to let the answer come up from within your heart. And once you're aware of how you're feeling, just try to recalibrate yourself by centering yourself in your heart. Just find that absolute center spot that's still and calm, so that you can recalibrate. And when you're ready, open your eyes very gently, very slowly, but take your time. Okay. It's a very quick, very simple micro practice. But how often do you do this during the day? How often do you check in with yourself? Many of us probably do it straight after meditation when we're used to doing that. But then we get lost in the rest of the day. And this is part of the problem, because we're not going back into our center again to find that stillness and that balanced state. And of course, there are a lot of things to cause stress at the moment. We heard from some of our participants in the video, children and their education, what they're spending their time doing, the fact that they're locked up. I'm sure there are family members who have, that you're worried about, maybe family in other parts of the world who may be exposed to COVID. Job situations are uncertain. There are so many extra stresses on just the normal day-to-day activities that are enough on their own. So what helps us get through all this? I want to just set a bit of a framework for you, because we need to understand how we work with these things. And of course, it's very important for the education of your kids that we understand this as parents, because of course, the main job we have is as role models for our children. We can tell them so many things, but they watch what we do, not what we say. They feel what we think and feel, far more importantly than anything we say. So until we're able to be aware of these things in ourselves, it's very hard for us to help our children. And of course, when we're all confined in lockdown in small spaces, it makes it very, very difficult unless we master these very simple tools. So let's start with what educators call holistic development, or holistic intelligence, if you like. The first one of these is what, we've always known about in classic 20th century education, which is what we call IQ, mental intelligence. And of course, it's much more than rote learning and knowledge. Mental intelligence has a lot to do with our cognitive ability, our ability to think laterally, to solve problems, to welcome challenges and work with them, and put creative ideas together to come up with something new. It's not about our ability to do exams or pass tests or learn knowledge. But this is just one of our intelligences. It's the first one, and it's an important one. It's the one that our education system focused on mostly in the 20th century. But of course, by about the 1980s, everybody started to realize that this wasn't enough. And that, our education system was sadly lacking. And by the 1990s, especially in the US, psychologists started to coin the term emotional intelligence. And then this was made popular by Daniel Goleman, who did a lot of studies in the corporate world to show that CEOs and other managers who were the most successful were not those with high IQs or brilliance academically, but those who had emotional intelligence. And what did he mean by that? He meant that they had certain skills that allowed them to deal with life in a very mature way emotionally. So one of those is self-awareness, which is why I asked you to do this check-in exercise. How do I feel? Because awareness is not about what I'm thinking. It's about what my inner world is doing, my emotional maturity, my feelings, what's happening at that level of my existence. And of course, this is what we dive into as the first step in meditation before we go deeper. And so when we meditate, we're practicing this every day. We're practicing the ability to look at how I'm feeling, what the heart is saying, all these aspects of emotional intelligence. And of course, it goes far deeper than emotional intelligence. So one aspect is self-awareness. Another one is self-development, our ability to really start to improve our emotional universe, you can say. And part of that also is our ability at socially interacting with others. And one very important aspect of emotional intelligence is resilience. And of course, resilience is one of the things that we need most at the moment in these stressful times. Because what is it? What's resilience? Classically, we're told it's our ability to bounce back. But psychologists now see it in a much broader framework. So it's our ability to prepare for challenges, to go through challenges in a way that's the most mature possible, and then to come out the other side and follow up from that. So it's not that we don't feel things. There are tragedies all around us at the moment. There are stresses all around us. Nobody's saying we shouldn't feel that. Life hurts sometimes. That's just a given. And the sooner we accept that and acknowledge that and help our children to acknowledge it too. It's not, it's not very practical to say, yes, just be strong and get through this, because sometimes we don't feel strong. Sometimes we feel very vulnerable. And I'm sure many of you as parents, given what you're going through in your lives and with your children at the moment, do feel vulnerable. It's a very normal and very human thing. We don't want to stop that. So emotional intelligence is not about saying, no, I can't be vulnerable. I can't be feeling overwhelmed. Not at all. It's how we deal with that. And resilience is our ability to use simple tools so that we get through it in the best possible way. And one way I look at it, which has helped me a lot, and it comes from a spiritual perspective, is that we do feel pain. We feel immense pain at the moment. I'm sure many of you have had loved ones who've suffered, for example. They may be in other parts of the world and you can't go visit them even. Or if you can, it's not the way it used to be. It's very painful. But what helps us to get through is that the love is stronger than the pain. It's not that we don't feel pain, but love gets us through it. Love takes it to a level where we can bounce back better. And with resilience, there are two types, and this is really important with your children in, when you're working with your children or when you're even trying to understand them. And you'll know it from yourself when I talk about it, and you can observe it in them, and it will help you to understand what they're going through. So the first type of resilience that's important is what we call cognitive resilience. And what's that? It means that when a person is stressed or when the sympathetic nervous system is dominant, when we're in active mode, which can become very stressed mode because we go into the fight or flight response, where the body gets hyper, we get angry or we get overactive or we get excited or whatever. When this happens, the part of our brain that is dominant is what we call the midbrain here. It's the mammalian brain, and there's a part of that called the amygdala, which is to do with our emotions. So when we get emotionally overwhelmed, we don't think clearly, because when this amygdala part of the brain is active, the prefrontal cortex of our brain doesn't work because we're in survival mode. And if we're in a chronic stress situation, like many people are today, this is what's going on. That part of our brain is operational. It doesn't matter how hard the person wants to try and think, solve problems, challenges, etc. It doesn't work because that part of the brain, the front part of the brain, is not switched on. So we need some simple tools to calm ourselves down so that we switch the nervous pattern from a sympathetic nervous system pattern to a parasympathetic nervous pattern. And we'll learn those. These are simple tools that are easy to learn. Heartfulness has many, many tools for reducing stress and bringing us back into a balanced state again. They're tools you can use for yourself, and as you use them, you can teach them to your kids. But this is critical because without this, you cannot bounce back mentally. You will be overwhelmed and swamped by your emotions and you won't be able to think. But the second part of resilience is what we call emotional resilience. And this is learning how to master these emotions. Just think for a minute, what happens when you get angry? How do you feel when you're angry? I'm sure you can all relate to the physiological changes, the friction you feel inside you, the fact that your blood pressure goes up, your heartbeat goes up, so many different things. So how do you learn to bounce back from this as quickly as possible? And eventually, how do you learn to prevent that state from becoming a reactive state? How do you learn to use anger wisely so that it becomes a change agent for you and you don't jump into a reactive state? So these are tools of resilience that we learn in Heartfulness. And what they do is they take us beyond emotional intelligence into emotional wisdom. We learn how to master this universe of the heart, which is where all this sits, and become stronger, become more competent. And of course, as we develop this skill, our children do too. They can't unless we do. The next intelligence is what we call relationship and social intelligence, SOQ. And this is critical in terms of taking this emotional and mental wisdom out into our relationships with others. It's not enough that we've mastered the inner world. If we're not able to then share that in terms of how we relate to others, how we communicate with others, then it's wasted, because that's what life's all about. And in family, with your kids, with your spouse, this is what we're dealing with. And, you know, there are so many parents at the moment struggling because they're struggling with their own relationships, let alone dealing with their children. And, you know, there are many parts of the world where the divorce rate is going to go through the roof as soon as people are able to get out of their lockdown. I mean, it's really chronic because we don't have these skills. And of course, we blame the other person when things go wrong. It's the classic thing in relationships, which of course is immaturity. To blame the other person is always the childish, immature way out of a situation, instead of recognizing that we need to build our own reserves, our own social intelligence. And of course, the final quotient is spiritual quotient, our spiritual intelligence. And this is our ability to expand our consciousness. So somebody who has a high level of spiritual intelligence has a very expanded, very flexible, very open consciousness and awareness. Whereas somebody who has a low spiritual quotient has a very rigid, narrow-minded view of life. Simple as that. In one, the heart is open. In the other, the heart is closed. There's no rocket science to this. So, you know, this is part of what we're doing to try and bring a holistic approach to well-being. Some of the people in the introductory video talked about well-being, mental well-being, which really encompasses the emotions and all this stuff, our social maturity, our spiritual maturity, our ability to bounce back, our ability to become self-aware. So these are the things we're going to focus on. Before I go any further though, and I'm going to ask you some questions about this later on, I'd like, Dr. Hina, are you there?
Yeah, hi, Dr. Elizabeth. Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to share some of your own experience of this, both in your role in the school and as a parent, in how you're seeing these things play out at the moment, what you're observing?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very unprecedented, and people had initially thought that it would be short-lived and, you know, things would be fine. And now they're clueless. We do not know what is the scenario next. And school closures, we do not know whether reopening scenario is there anywhere in the future, near future. Working remotely, physical distancing, and it's a lot to navigate for anyone, but especially for parents, for teachers, where we are so used to having a physical contact and you know, sharing and caring. That other than that, we had never experienced what school could be like, and all of a sudden you are thrown into. So my basic thing, which I told my parents many a times when we had formal and informal discussions, as well as to the staff, that the first question we need to ask ourselves is, okay, is it controllable or uncontrollable? Something which is not in my control. So that is very important, that if it is not in my control, what next? So what cannot be cured has to be endured. So if there is no cure in my hand, what am I going to do? Then the basic thing would come is acceptance. Very, very important. It would rest me mentally, emotionally, when I question myself and I answer myself that, first of all, it is beyond my control. It is there to stay. What am I supposed to do? Jump from the rooftop? Shout? What am I going to do? Okay, so first and the foremost thing, as at personal level, each individual has to do is to take charge of oneself. Before they say in the airplane, right, the oxygen mask, first you have to look after yourself, and then, so first and foremost thing is that I have to ensure that I am emotionally, mentally, physically fit. So it should start from physical fitness. Personally, if you ask me, when you say that as a parent at home or as a teacher, as a head of the school, how have I navigated? And I made everyone aware that, physical fitness is very important. Sedentary lifestyle will finally lead to a lot of mental and emotional imbalances. So, first thing is that you have to be physically fit. And personally, today only in the morning we had the ceremony, we started sports meet. And I said, lead by example. You have to. And today I have been declared in the gold category, 50 plus. Champion, where we have Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, our schools, global, international, and it was for staff athleta. And I said, okay, lead by example, physical fitness. So that is very important. Do yoga. Every parent has to see. As you rightly mentioned, that it is not what I say, it is what I do. My children are watching me, right? Everyone is watching me. So when I say something has to make an impact, I have to practice it myself. Preaching wouldn't help. So that is what we have to do as parent, as teachers, that we ourselves become physically fit. Sedentary lifestyle is there. So what do we do? Instead of shouting about the screen time, make it positive screen time. What cannot be cured has to be endured. How do you do that? With awareness, with quality routine, by setting a beautiful routine, because it is all gone haywire. All our plans, all our routines. We were so used to patting off children. Now you are teacher at home. You are, loss of income is there. There are a lot of fears, losing your near ones and dear ones. But again and again, you have to come to a nucleus of that circumference, is that what is in my control? What can I do about it? I can look after myself. I can be physically fit, which would help in my mental fitness. And finally, my environment around will be beautiful, because when I look after myself, my environment will be taken care of. So those are very important aspects which we have embedded in our school life, in informing all the parents that set a beautiful routine diary, put it in the diary, and they have to write that routine and put it everywhere across, that okay, morning this time. A lot of things, laundry doing could be together, making bed could be doing, together, preparing, cooking could be together, family that prays together, stays together, family that eats together. And somewhere I feel that, this is a collective consciousness that we all have lent into this particular pandemic, which we call it pandemic, because sometimes we must have thought, I don't want to go to school. Sometimes we must say, I don't want to go to office. Oh, I want to be with my children. I want to be, my husband is not at home. My wife is spending a lot of time. And all this tathastu, God has said, okay, you want it, have it. Now when we have it, we do not know what to do with it. Why not make it a quality time? Whatever time, whatever circumstances or situation we are into, make it a beautiful new found time, me time, new found time. And of course it's easy, it's preaching, but it's not. We have practiced it in the school with our 2000 plus kids and 4000 plus parents, where we begin our day with heartfulness. Online also we begin our day with heartfulness. We have break time during screen time, 10 minutes break. They would do some yoga, they would do some exercise. So we have also changed our routine into quality routine. So that is what, as parents, as teachers, as adults, as children, manage our emotions, which you have so rightly mentioned, that how do you do that? With awareness. Reaction is not going to help. So my life is mostly reacting or acting. So taking charge of myself, that am I acting or reacting? And becoming aware. Awareness is the key. Every moment, if I am aware, what am I doing with that particular circumstance? Am I reacting or I'm acting? And if I look after, every time I look within myself and look at myself, and if I take charge of myself, my environment will be taken care of, because my vibes, my aura as a family member would be, taking everybody into its stride. It would be. So those are few things, and we can talk a few more of those things as and when more questions will come. We can further discuss. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, just to follow on from what you said, Dr. Hina, which is absolutely spot on. There are some, very simple things to bring into a routine that matter. So you've mentioned physical health, and of course, it's so important to make the time in your calendar, to put it in your calendar. But think also as a parent, because everybody's holed up together, how will you take a certain time every week or every day or whatever's good in your routine to spend with each member of your family alone as a one-on-one? So for example, say you have 2 children. Often we forget that in this current situation, they need their individual time with you, not doing assignments or doing, that sort of stuff, but one-on-one personal relationship time. The same with your spouse. Do you put in your calendar every week during lockdown a special moment? It might be a couple of hours every week. That's a sacred space that you spend with your spouse. In the olden days, we would have maybe gone out to dinner or done something like that. I'm sure many of you had quite busy social lives before. How do you do that now? Because unless you consciously and awarely do this and make a set time every week for it, it'll get pushed under the rug. And this, of course, is very detrimental to relationships, because unless you give yourself that space to be able to share, to be able to talk, to be able to discuss things, discuss frustrations and solutions to frustrations, you end up.
Actually, Dr. Elizabeth, we have, like in school, we have quality circles, so there's a problem. We find out what problem is there and what could be. They only would come out with different beautiful solutions. So that is what we have to do now in the family. Let them figure out those solutions themselves and basically give positive attention to everything. Don't wait for the situation to erupt and then you give the attention. Rather, give positive attention before it erupts or before the situation it goes beyond control. If we give positive attention with a cuddle, with a smile, praising, appreciating, some incentive for doing the dishes or making the bed or something like that, and it works wonders, isn't it? So that kind of physical, sometimes we undervalue the kind of hugs and kisses that are required in the family. That is also, physical touch is very important. That how many times I have hugged my child, my spouse, or we just are a society where we just shy away from maybe telling I love you. We take it for granted the other person knows that he or she is loved. Why not tell that? So those positive attentions. And in fact, one beautiful thing I just wanted to mention here is that we don't say this word pandemic, we say happydemic. How best you can make, because metaphors matter a lot. So what metaphor I'm using, that is also very important. So yeah, please carry on.
Absolutely. And but I really advise you as parents to sit with a calendar and make special times for each of your family members, and also your family members who are overseas or not with you. Make a special time to call them. Do this, put value on connection, because what psychologists are aware of is that we're anyway suffering a lot because without so much touch, and so much, and even really funny stimuli. Like one psychologist was saying that a lot of people have become aware that they're in Zoom meetings, right, for their work, etc., but there's no smell of coffee in the meeting room, which used to be a part of a meeting. And so all these different stimuli are not there. So of course we're coming into a very, very different way of interacting. A lot of it's over internet, For our kids, the same thing. How do we, as you mentioned before, how do we turn that into the most positive experience we can to make it worthwhile? What I'd like to do at this point is I want to ask you a few questions about this. So Parvati, we'll start doing the Menti questions now. I'm going to go through that list I mentioned before about the different quotients, physical, mental, emotional, relationships, social, and spiritual, and ask you to look at what the challenges are that you're facing in each one. All of us will have something. These are anonymous, but we'll start with physical health. So if we can have the Menti screen up, please, Parvati. So here is the code for menti.com. I'm sure all of you are probably aware of how to use this. If not, on your phone, go to www.menti.com and use this code 5975 6444. And we're going to ask these questions so we get a sense from the group here. It's all anonymous, so don't worry, and you can say exactly what you're feeling. Try and really go into your heart and discover what you're feeling. So it's www. not comma. That's it, yeah. Thanks, Manjula. Okay. So let's go to the first question. Has everybody got it? Somebody said it's not opening. Try it with the dot. So it's www.menti.com. So first question, what are the challenges that you are currently facing regarding your physical health and well-being? Don't think of this in terms of illness. Think of it in terms of optimum health. What could you improve? Is it because you're sitting at home a lot? Is it because of screen time on your eyes? Is it because you're not getting out enough in the fresh air for walks? Could be many, many things. So once you start giving your answers, it'll come up. Okay. Yeah, discipline is a big one, isn't it? When we're in this funny lack of routine. Wish to meet friends, feel sleepy, tired, exhausted, busy with housework. I can imagine when everybody's at home, the cooking, the housework, everything is relentless, right? No physical exercise. Okay, when I was in lockdown in India for 7 months, this is how I used my screen time every morning. I had certain videos. One was an indoor walking video, which is 10 minutes of very, very intense, fast walking exercises. It's not just straight walking, it's sideways walking, it's kicking your legs up in the air. After 10 minutes, you don't feel tired or lazy, I can tell you.
It's happy walking videos. So they can follow those videos on YouTube.
Yeah, they're fabulous. And the other thing that I also do is, I was doing then, I mean, of course, now I can go outside in Australia, but in a one-bedroom apartment, tiny apartment in India, I was also doing Tai Chi and yoga exercises every day. So one session of fast cardio exercise, another session of good stretching and strength building exercise. There's no need to be sedentary during lockdown. You've got to be disciplined about it though. But all these things, lack of nutrition, lack of fresh air, my eyes, too much screen time, feeling frustrated, no motivation.
I think again, setting a routine would really help. This is the family time. Everybody, even happy walking can be done together. 10, 15 minutes. It could be a family walk. You don't need much space. It could be done within your room itself. Leslie Sanson is, I think her videos are beautifully done and you can follow those videos and that can be done. And in fact, when whole family, if it is a schedule prepared, that who is going to do the dishes, who is going to make the bed, who is going to help in preparing the snacks, so everybody, it shouldn't be. Children also have to be involved in the tasks. And then if the roles and responsibilities are divided, Monday who is going to do, Tuesday who is going to do, Wednesday, so one person is not responsible. And of course that discipline has to be put in place because of the new kind of situation, isn't it? It cannot be that I never have done, so I wouldn't do. This had never happened, pandemic, so now it is there, so we all have to be doing it. And those routines can be set up for children, for parents, for everyone, and family time together where they can walk together, talk together, board games they can play. And a lot of games could be played together. It could be carom, it could be some dodgeball, or within the house. Outside also, it's not that you cannot go out of the house, in a safe place, with physical distance, proper maintenance. A lot of things can be done.
Yeah, exactly, Dr. Hina. I agree with you. The other thing you can also do is do it with your friends. Like if you have a group of 6 or 7 women, it's like people watch movies together on Zoom, right? Do exercise together, or watch the same video together at the same time, and afterwards have a meeting and just chat and laugh about how you feel and how unfit you are and all that sort of stuff. I mean, if you set a date with your friends to do this, your kids set dates with their friends to do this, it's much more fun, I can tell you. So create that community feeling by doing these activities together. Okay, next one that we're going to look at. So physical health, we know. Now we're looking at mental health. So what are the challenges that you're currently facing? And many people are facing very critical.
In fact, just to add, Dr. Elizabeth here, personally, I can really speak with a lot of confidence, because it is during all this, I feel that for 30 years, I have been eating out of the lunch box. Now it is first time that I take it as an opportunity to have hot, warm food myself. Then I joined yoga classes. I'm doing strength training. And I just turned everything into positive. What we couldn't do, hired a nutritionist, shed a lot of kgs of weight. So that is how one has to motivate oneself.
Yeah. But it's easier said than done, Dr. Hina. If you
I have done it. That is why I'm saying,
Not everybody may be as strong as you, and it's okay if you're not.
I know. Yeah. One has to. That is self-motivation, and willpower has to be there.
Yeah. I mean, we can see in the chat box, laziness and feeling sad all the time. It's a very common problem. So you can see here, feeling very low, no quality time, staying alone, mood swings, frustration. Okay, negative thoughts, feeling sad. All right, so these are very common problems. And for these, it's not everybody can snap out of it. You need some tools. So I'm going to offer you a couple of very simple practices that you can do. When you wake up in the morning and you've done, you've been to the bathroom, washed your face and all that sort of thing, even before you meditate, and this is something that Daji mentioned to me just yesterday, he said, remind people to do some simple oxygenating breathing practices before their meditation. So Swami Vivekananda used to say, do 36 deep breaths. And when I say deep breaths, it's all the way down into your abdomen. So imagine that the breath and the oxygen is going all the way down to your toes, but just do 36 deep breaths in and out through your nose, just like this. As you breathe in, let your belly open up and go out. As you breathe out, pull your belly in and do very deep breathing 36 times. This will fully oxygenate your body, as much as any exercise, in fact. And when you do this, it clears your head, it clears your sinuses, it gets rid of that sleepy feeling. So when you sit to meditate after that, you've got real clarity and you're able to go deeper, you're able to really be aware. But something as simple as this 36 breaths in the morning can change your life, because it gets you moving. It gives you that, oxygen vitalizes your system. It gets your cells going. And you can do it at any time during the day, even just when you're sitting, relaxing at some point, do it. And you'll feel your whole system start to get more energized.
In fact, the mental has connection with the physical. I feel that whenever you feel depressed or you feel that sadness or overwhelmed, I think you start running. You just go and run for 10-15 minutes, and the rush which you will have, you will feel very refreshed. And taking a shower also might help. Then that it just goes away. All the stress, all the anxiety is just going away. So taking a shower is also one of the very effective mode to combat sadness. But running or brisk walking has really, I feel, that has helped me a lot, and it could be an antidote to depression.
Definitely movement helps. So you find what works for you. For some people, some simple stretching works. For others, running works. For others, breathing works. Yoga. You find what is your thing that makes you feel very good.
Maybe music. I play an instrument. I listen to beautiful music. I feel recharged, rejuvenated.
Exactly. If you like dancing, put your favorite music on and dance. Dance with your kids. They'll also benefit from the exercise, and it's fun. You just find ways, and again, schedule time for these things. If your day is so packed with other stuff that you don't make some time to play, to have fun together, you'll struggle a lot. Okay, let's move on. So next one is, what are the challenges you are currently facing regarding your emotional health? Stress could be, again, an answer to this, but think about specific emotions. Things like fear, anxiety, anger, frustration, envy, jealousy, guilt, shame. There are so many that we struggle with. Anxiety. These are all things that we face that are probably exacerbated right now. Short temper, yes, anxiety. Just what are the things you need to work on emotionally to become more mature emotionally? Sadness has come up in everything so far. So sadness is obviously...
I think one thing, Dr. Elizabeth, would help is gratitude. I mean, when more we are filled with gratitude that, what I have, and thank Almighty for all that I have, I think that would really help us to, count our blessings and be grateful for the things. Then jealousy and those things might take a backseat when I connect with the universe, and, I feel very grateful for whatever I have.
Sure.
That morning, I just woke up in the morning and I'm alive. Isn't that a thing to be grateful for? My near ones and dear ones are alive. Isn't that things to be grateful for? I can walk and talk my way. Are those not things to be grateful for? And if we start counting, I mean, although it's cliched, it sounds, but that's not the truth. The truth is that, yes, if we keep counting our blessings, we have so many things that there is no room for jealousy, anxiety, isn't it? That is how one has to look at.
Sure. The problem we face, Dr. Hina, is that many of these patterns are subconscious. It's not that people want to be that way. Nobody wants to feel jealous. Nobody wants to feel angry.
Yeah.
And so they're subconscious patterns. So unless we have a practice like the heartfulness cleaning that is actually removing the neural hardwiring of these subconscious patterns, we can want to change, but it's very difficult to change. And then, of course, when somebody wants to change and they can't, they feel guilty because they feel like they should be able to. And so the most important thing is to focus on removing the root cause, which are these subconscious patterns. If you grew up in a family where your father had a short temper, it's very common for you to have a short temper, not because you want to have a short temper, but that's what you learned at a very, very early age. So the main thing we're dealing with is a lot of subconscious patterns and tendencies, and we get very frustrated with ourselves, actually. I think
that they can keep journaling. We can keep journaling our feelings. You can write down whatever I have felt, and then we become more observant about our feelings when we write down. And then how do we overcome that?
Definitely, yes. Okay, so you all know what you have to work on, yes? I mean, these are things that can change. We know they can change. We know from the heartfulness practices that these are all tendencies and locked in patterns that can disappear over time if we do the work on ourselves. So as Dr. Hina said, self-awareness is one very big part of that. Self-study, what we call swadhyaya in yoga, which is self-study, and journaling is a big part of that. We also need to get rid of the root cause of the patterns so that we can really start to free ourselves up from these patterns, because none of us like them. They're very debilitating, but certainly you can get help with this, and our heartfulness trainers are there, very much there to help with this. Okay, next one, and this is a big one. Relationship health. What are the biggest challenges? This can be relationships with your spouse, with your kids, with extended family, with friends. Don't limit it to any one particular relationship. Could be things to do with loneliness, silly fights. It's a big one.
See, it is silly.
But of course, it's a result of the frustration. Okay. These are all very, very common. Expectations is one of the biggest.
I think that one word, if one removes from life, life is sorted. Expectations.
Yeah.
There's a one beautiful thing, not being understood. So if we put that how much we understand, put the other way, whether I am trying to understand people or I just want to be understood, isn't it?
Yes.
And somebody has written in the chat, simply getting angry on others.
Yes. I think it's, these are all exacerbated and magnified at the moment because of the current situation, which is a wonderful opportunity to work on them more. Because under a magnifying glass, we're seeing them more. We're seeing what our patterns are and what our relationship issues are. So it's time to say, okay, let's work on this. And I guarantee you, if you take that calendar time with each member of your family every week, it will go a long way to starting to work on these. Just giving that special time and taking the time to listen. In that special time, listening to each other, pausing, giving
Two things which I do, doctor, is that one is my tagline, my mantra, that is my motto I have made, is that be happy no matter what. That tagline is there in my life. You will find on my wall, everywhere that is there. Be happy no matter what. So whatever happens, and then I have to be aware that I have to be happy. Come on. Whatever has happened. Now what next? So if we keep it in life, what next? Okay, the moment that has passed, it's not in my control. The moment that is there and going to come is under my control. What do I do with that? So be happy no matter what. So change the metaphors in life, and things would be wonderful. And second part is that, is it going to matter down the line, say a year or 2 years or 5 years down the line, whatever I'm experiencing today, is it going to matter? It's not going to matter. So how do I take charge at this moment of my life?
Yes, yes, it's very, very good advice. And when you're in that state, remember the tools. When you're actually in that state where you are angry or you have expectations and you're feeling very disappointed, someone mentioned need silence, just surrounded by people all the time, lack of tolerance, not being open. When you feel these things, take a moment, even if it means going to the bathroom, because going to the bathroom can be a great place just to get 5 minutes on your own without other family members and just pause, do whatever you need to do, some deep breathing, some left nostril breathing if you want to really calm down. Close your eyes and just be in peace. Give yourself a break, recalibrate. That check-in exercise we did at the beginning to center yourself. How am I feeling? Center myself. Just recalibrate so I can go out into the world again. Give yourself that time. Have the discipline to do that, because your emotional well-being needs attention often. When you're feeling sad and you can't get out of it because the midbrain is active, not your thinking process. So you're stuck in a pattern and your whole physiology has gone into that fight or flight pattern and you can't get out of it straight away. It doesn't go straight away. You need to do a couple of things to calm down, like left nostril breathing, even the relaxation exercise. And you'll find that taking yourself out of the situation, go to the balcony, the bathroom, whatever you need to do will help enormously. We all need that from time to time. And if you've got teenage kids, you must be climbing the walls at times, because they are also climbing the walls and they're going to, take it out on you. It's normal. There's nothing wrong with them or with you because that's happening. Okay.
Sometimes, especially the culture, Indian culture. So what happens is that females take a lot of responsibility on themselves. They feel responsible and triple roles. They feel that they have to be superwoman every time. You don't have to be. Nobody has to be. And forget that perfection kind of a thing and stress yourself so much. It's okay. The house is not in order. It's okay. If the bedsheet is lying somewhere else, it's okay. Otherwise, that perfection, being a perfectionist also would lead to a lot of stress and anxiety. And I have to do it all myself. No, everybody, if one day there's no cooking done, it's okay. People have to manage. So those kind of superwoman kind of thing, they have to get out of their head, then a lot of less stress would be there.
Yes, it's a very good point. Let's move on to social health, because I realize we're running out of time. Okay, what are the challenges you're currently facing regarding your social health? So your extended network, extended community of friends, of extended family, of colleagues. Colleagues also, teamwork, conflicts in the workplace, all this sort of stuff. What are the main challenges you're currently facing?
Yeah, that is there. But I think now we can move out. We can move out of the house and go to a space wherever possible. Here at the moment, it is a lot of heat is there outside. So as such, you don't move out. In Middle East, a lot of it's hot summer. So anyway, you can't step out.
Missing family, socializing with friends. Yes.
I think Zoom is a beautiful platform. And sometimes, my daughter shifted to, during this pandemic times, which I call it happydemic time, she shifted to Canada. My son-in-law shifted to Canada, both of them. We did not meet. We couldn't say goodbye. But I think whenever she would be cooking, she would just put me, she'll say, let me place you somewhere in the kitchen. And she would put me on the Zoom and we are together. So I think those things have really helped. Certain technological platforms have really helped to, of course, something that you want to hug each other and be physically be with each other, then that may not be there, but still missing hugs I can imagine. But there are a lot of virtual hugs, isn't it? A lot of emoticons and smileys and things are there. What cannot be cured has to be endured.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so you've all mentioned the most common things worldwide. So you're not alone. Just know that. That's a huge thing. And as I said before, you know, life hurts sometimes. It's real. Don't gloss over that. Don't pretend that things don't hurt, because that's disconnecting from your emotional universe. But know that while things hurt, the love overrides that. It's not about pretending you don't feel these things. These things are there, and it's great you're able to say them, because they matter, and they are very, very real as human beings. We're social animals, and we require touch. So when we're lonely, when we're missing that, it's a very normal human experience to miss it. But just also know, as Dr. Hina said, you can connect with love in many ways. Try and explore and experiment with different ways of connecting with friends. Write letters. You know, writing letters used to be such a beautiful way of connecting with others. Get on Zoom calls by all means, but if you're zoomed out like most of us are, connect in other ways. Write letters.
One of the exercises we asked our children to do is that draw a picture of a family or somebody, and then we post that picture to them. They would be so happy. They'll be so happy.
So many different things. So come up with creative ways within your family to do this. Experiment a bit. You know, there are many, many different ways. People have gone through these situations many, many times in the past. You know, during the early 20th century with the First World War, the Spanish flu, the Depression, the Second World War, people didn't see family members for years and years and years on end. 5, 6, 7 years. It was very normal. And, you know, they got through it. This is not a new phenomenon. We think it's new because we've not experienced it before, but human beings have been dealing with this since time immemorial, and they've coped and they've found good ways to connect. I think we live in a culture where everybody expects everything immediately. So we're not very resilient. We're not very good at dealing
with it. In fact, somehow, if we look at philosophically, this is nature's way of balancing upside down, so that those poor getting poorer and rich getting richer. So that had to be reversed, and that is how. And I always tell that if you want probabilities, look for problems. More problems, more probabilities. Otherwise, there is no fun in life.
Yes, exactly. And now the very last one. What are the challenges that you are currently facing with your spiritual health? So it could be your ability to go deep inside in meditation, find stillness, to get rid of thoughts and emotions, focus, all these things. What are the main challenges that you're feeling right now? It may be just finding time in the day with all the family at home to be able to do your practice. Many, many things can be challenging at this time. Staying calm, frustration. Okay, lacking concentration, getting distracted, frustration. So you know that meditation is not concentration. We don't have to concentrate when we meditate. We are not trying to concentrate. But I understand what you're saying, that because of all the preoccupations, the mind is getting distracted. You're not able to focus within very easily. If that happens, contact a trainer and do a series of sessions on consecutive days with a trainer, so that you start to get over this disturbance state. Savita, you can help coordinate this if necessary, but organize so that everybody who's struggling, who's getting distracted, who's feeling heavy, who's finding it difficult to have deeper meditations and practice, etc., has an intensive session with a trainer. And do that as often as you need. If you need to have a session with a trainer every day, that's also fine. But take help. Don't do it alone, because we're not meant to do this alone.
So we do have trainers, thousands of trainers all over the world, in all the major cities at least. So at the end of the session, we will be sharing how you can connect with a heartfulness trainer.
Yes. And you can do it so easily via an app, on the website, one-on-one, via a Zoom call or a WhatsApp, whatever you want. The technology helps us in this regard. As Dr. Hina said, make use of it for good purposes. And this is one thing that you can do every day. You can check in with a trainer and get all the help you need to overcome any difficulties you face with your spiritual health. So at this stage, that's all I want to do here. I think if you've got questions or you've got something you want to share, now would be the time. We've run out of time, but I think we can take a little longer. Yes?
So,
if we take a little longer?
Yes, we can continue. Thank you so much, Dr. Elizabeth and Dr. Hina, for sharing your wonderful insights and practical tips. Now, parents, if any of you would like to ask any questions or just to share your feelings with our faculty, you may raise your hand so that we can just choose you one by one.
Okay, there's a question in the chat box: how to influence spouses for spiritual path? Very simple. You become the role model. It's in your behavior and your attitudes. Nothing else will work. You can't force somebody to do what you're doing.
Be the change you want to see in the world. So when I'm practicing a particular spiritual path and there are positive changes in me, the other person would definitely be inspired that, okay, this path is something very beautiful.
But there's also the attitude of expectations again. Even if you're doing the best you can, they still may not want to. And a lot of it is just acceptance.
And from the FB, we have two questions. One is like one of the participants, she has rashes, and the doctor said that it is because of stress, and she needs advice to just reduce the stress, actually. How to reduce stress.
Okay, so there are many practices. Whoever is asking that, I suggest that you hook up with one of our trainers and learn some simple practices. There's a relaxation practice. There's another one that we're going to do to end now, which is an ocean of peace practice. But the relaxation and meditation and just the basic core heartfulness practices will help you manage stress amazingly.
And one asked for like a solution for anxiety.
Same. You have to work with these. You cannot just want them to go away. You have to do some things to bring about a reduction in the patterns that are causing these. You can't change the outside world. We are in a situation of high uncertainty, a lot of stresses, work-related stresses, financial stresses, health stresses with COVID, everything. But we can do our best to moderate that by reducing our reactions and changing our inner world so that we learn, as Dr. Hina said, to stay happy under all circumstances. It takes some practice, it takes some awareness changes, but all the support is there to help you. There's nothing that can't be done.
Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth. Parents, do you want to ask any questions or do you want to share something to us? Please raise your hands.
Children's vaccine in UAE, it's already there. They have already started administering. For 12 plus they had, and 16 plus, now they have 12 plus, and now they are coming up.
Yeah. Mohit's father, would you like me to unmute you? Do you have any queries?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Please continue.
Good evening, ma'am. My name is Adi, ma'am. I am Mohit parents. Right now, I will be staying in Hyderabad. So my son will be staying in Bangalore. So I think he may be attending in another mobile. Same. I think even now also he is also listening. Ma'am, my son will be facing some problem, ma'am, while speaking time, because he will thinks that he don't know how to speak. If something he speaks means then it may be, if wrong means we will going to tell something, others will going to blame, like that he will feels in each and every time. What can I do for that problem, ma'am?
So you have to start to listen. Okay, try to do some conversations with him where you ask him questions and listen to what he has to say. Help him to develop some confidence in speaking. And this will come if you take this special time, like I said, create a calendar time every week with him where it's just you and him, no one else in the family, the two of you together, and you listen to him. Only listen to him. Don't make any comments, just find out what is happening in his heart, in his head, and see what comes out. Because he needs some opportunity to develop confidence in speaking. That's all. He has it all inside him, but for some reason he's lacking confidence. Don't worry about the reasons why. Just practice giving him that confidence, listening to him.
In fact, one more thing you can do, because we in school, we have counselors in the school, we have the department. So why not talk to the counselor of the, right now also one of my counselors is attending this session, Rashda. I could see her in the participants list. So you can talk to a counselor as well, you know, where they can also guide you in the right manner, what could be the diagnostic and remedial measures can be applied. So a professional help, because we sometimes feel that going to a counselor means no, even for a minor thing also, what is troubling could be, you know, spoken to counselor and the help can be taken from.
Thank you, Mohit's father. Shall we move on to some other questions from the chat? How to manage positive work-life balance and able to make time for self-care as well? I think we have already covered. Yeah.
Same answer. I mean,
me time, put me time. Nobody should take away your me time. Your family should know this is me time. Keep a mug where it is written on that mug. Get a design mug, me time. And when you're holding that mug and having coffee, nobody should dare to bother you. Keep that me time for yourself.
So how can we keep kids away from gadgets?
Look, in this day and age when they have to be on gadgets for their school, how can you keep them away? We're telling them on one hand to use gadgets and then we're saying not to use them. It's not possible. I think, as Dr. Hina said earlier, if you create other activities that are more interesting, that you have to do it in a positive way. If you just say, don't use the gadgets and you don't provide an alternative, what are kids going to do?
When I say don't have Coke or Sprite, I have to give them lemon juice, right? So that they have some substitute for that. Alternative has to be created. So some beautiful quality time is created. Gadgets would be out, but parents, what they want to do, they are on gadgets all the time. They would be either doing Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, or and they are there on the gadgets and they want children not to be on gadgets. So it can't happen that way. So as a parent, whether am I also spending less time on gadgets, then I'll have time as a family time.
From FB, we got a question like, what's the difference between stress and challenge?
Okay, stress is in our reaction. Challenge is always there. So a challenge is something that needs to be solved or accepted, one or the other, or sometimes both. But stress is when we have, well, actually, there's good stress and bad stress. There's eustress, which is positive stress, which is rising to the challenge. And then there's what's called distress, which is when stress overwhelms us so that we don't rise to the challenge, but we have a strong negative reaction. So it's all in our response. Challenges are never going to go anywhere, but how do we deal with them is the question.
Just a little bit I would add over here is that sometimes we, it has to do something like when we say, I don't have confidence. There is nothing like you don't have confidence because you don't have competence. So we have to ensure that there is competence so that I become confident. Similarly, when I'm confident of handling things because of the competence, stress would go away. So what am I stressed about? I have to be aware. What am I stressed about? Suppose this particular session is to be there. What am I stressed about? Okay, then I have to build in the competence. If I'm stressed, what parents will ask, whether I'll be able to answer the queries. No, what could be different questions parents would be asking. I develop that competence, then I won't have stress. So rather than sitting over stress, find out how I can beat that stress.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hina. And I think it's time for our session to end. So thank you so much, dear parents, for your active participation. And I know many of you would like to share challenges you are facing today.
I love this, Anita ji. Sorry to interrupt, but she says she's heading for dance with her kids. All the very best, and all of us should now dance. Forget who is watching. Dance like nobody is watching you. And that is how you have to. So wonderful, Anita, and everybody. We also should dance now.
Yeah, sure. So now let's invite Dr. Elizabeth to end the session with a micro practice called Ocean of Peace.
Okay, so everybody sit comfortably, close your eyes, and just imagine that you are immersed in an ocean of peace. The waves are washing over you very gently from the front and moving out your back. And as they move through your system, all the tensions, especially all the emotional tensions, are just being washed away. So that this peace of this ocean is completely engulfing you. And it'd be very gentle, very tender. Just let go of anything that's troubling you. So as we finish this short practice, just visualize yourself just completely peaceful. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes.
Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth. A heartfelt thanks from Heartfulness Meena and GIS UAE to Dr. Elizabeth Denley and Dr. Hina Ranch to this wonderful conversation with our parents. Thank you all.